Okay, hello everybody. It's 1 o'clock, so we will get started. I hope you can see me and hear me. If you can say hello in the chat, those of you who are joining me on Zoom, that would be really helpful. I am, for the first time in a while, going live in all the places. Thanks so much for confirming. So we're live on LinkedIn, hopefully, YouTube, Facebook group, Facebook page. Now, those of you who are registered will be here with me on Zoom. You've got the workbook, you've got all the details, and I'll be able to answer your questions directly. But I did want to open up the session to those of you who may be new to the community, who maybe didn't have a chance to register, didn't want you to miss out. So you can still follow along today and join us. Now, this is a 90-minute session. So I know it's a big chunk of your time. So thank you so much for your trust. Of course, if you have spontaneously come across this session here, then I don't expect you necessarily to have that time free today, but do bookmark the video, save the link, and come back to it. I'll have it live for a couple of weeks, I think, to make sure that you can catch up. There's a lot of work we're going to be going through today. So let's get stuck in to make sure we cover the material in the time we have. So first of all, I should say my name is Anna Lindberg and I'm the founder of One Step Outside. And we're here to talk about the 5 pillars. So my framework of the 5 pillars of building a life and business outside of the 9 to 5. And so, of course, there's a lot more to this than I can cover in a 90-minute session, but I'm doing my best to give you a flavor of the different aspects, to give you some really concrete, tangible questions to work through, plenty of actionable insights to take away, and then you can always come back and work with me in another way if you'd like to take it further, but plenty for you to get stuck into today. Now, as we get started, you may have seen the headlines. I think you must have seen the headlines of the last few years of this whole great resignation, great rethink, great discontent. And more recently, we're getting a lot of chat about coming back into the office. We had Airbnb announce the work from anywhere policy. We've had other companies be more skeptical, other public figures being more skeptical as to the flexible working arrangements. We're talking about 4-day work weeks. We're talking about hybrid work and so on. Now, for those of us who are here, and this is really designed for you in particular if you have the basics of the business already in place, in fact, but if you're just starting to think about it, this can be a really great introduction for you too. For those of us here, we have already to some extent decided to, or in complete extent, to every extent, decided to escape the 9 to 5. We've already made the choice that actually I don't want to work for the employer, sometimes a bad boss in a toxic work culture with a long commute. I want the flexibility. I want the freedom. I always talk about the push reasons that are pushing us out of that world, but also the pull reasons that are pulling us towards something. And what I love about this whole discussion now is that the debate is becoming broader. It's not just about starting a business. In a way, you can escape the 9 to 5, even within the 9 to 5, if that makes sense. So my job is getting a little bit more complex, but so much more interesting. And I hope you'll see the variety of ways in which you can design this for you. And that is key here. We're trying to design a business and a life that works for you. And that's really what these 5 pillars are all about. So if you are new to my community, and I've got some really familiar faces here with me on Zoom, my name is Anna Lindberg. Now, I built my marketing career at Procter & Gamble, big corporate multinational company. I had an amazing time, met fantastic colleagues. I learned so much. It opened so many doors for me since leaving there. However, there was always a little bit of a disconnect for me because I'd studied one thing, I'd ended up in a different industry and so on. So for many reasons, I chose to take a bit of a break. I took a sabbatical to travel across South America in 2013. So I've now been out as long as I've been inside the 9 to 5, as it were. And that trip really helped me take a step back, what I call reimagine what success looks like for me. I listened to podcasts, I read books, I met all sorts of people from all sorts of walks of life. And it opened my eyes to the different possibilities. Now, of course, there've been many twists and turns since then. And alas, I wasn't as strategic as I'm trying to help you all be now. But I've learned a lot over that process. Now, initially, very briefly, just so you understand where I'm coming from, I landed in digital marketing consulting. So my corporate work had been branding, marketing, and in the last few years, really specializing in digital. And those skills were very much in demand. So the obvious thing for me to do was take those skills, package them up as a consultant. I came in as a freelancer, contractor, whatever you want to call it, came in, did my thing, and then went off to travel and had an amazing time. However, for me, although that was a massive, good step in the right direction, it wasn't enough. It wasn't giving me the freedom and flexibility that I'd really been dreaming of. And I was also lacking a bit of the fulfillment in terms of doing the work I wanted to be doing. I was still very much linked to that same work I'd been doing in my corporate life. So I guess 2015, around then, I did a formal coach training, initially for my own selfish reasons, to learn all about coaching from a personal development perspective. But I loved it so much, as many people do when they learn about coaching and they experience coaching, that I added that into my toolkit. So since then, I'm combining my brand and marketing background with the positive psychology, the sort of life coaching side of things. I know it's an uncomfortable word for those of us who come from kind of the corporate background, but that aspect to it, because I think those are so powerful together, the business mentorship and branding and marketing strategy, along with the bigger picture questions about the meaning of life, because that's what we're trying to answer, aren't we? All of us. And so that's what I do today. So that's why I'm here. Long story short, TLDR, I'm here to help you build that life outside the 9 to 5. For me, initially, I was traveling. I did the whole digital nomad thing. Since then, my location independent business came a bit more rooted, I guess, in the UK, because I met an Englishman who was in that 9 to 5. Then we have since moved down to the South Coast, which is where I am now. Hello. Just by the sea here with the beautiful sun. There are some military helicopters going over for some reason, so I hope that doesn't disrupt you, and the noise is pretty loud. And now I use my location independence and flexibility to manage my business alongside my 2 little kids, Sophia and Zach. So I share this not to be sort of self-indulgent, but just so you understand the twists and turns of my business and how I've arrived at where we are today. And where we are today is that I'm talking you through these 5 pillars. If you've been part of my community for a while, you'll be familiar with them. You may even notice, if you're paying attention, that I cycle through this content in my podcast, on my videos, in my posts, and so on. So we also do workshops on deep dive topics every couple of months. So the 5 pillars are, and we'll dig into these in just a moment, identifying a clear definition of success. If you don't know what you want, how are you going to build it? The second one is cultivating confidence and resilience, because there are always going to be ups and downs. So how can we manage those and bounce back? The third one is choosing the right business model. Now, if you're completely new, then it's really great. You can start from scratch and you can build the foundations. If you're already in business, you can look at how to pivot, modify, add new things into the mix. The 4th pillar is building an effective personal brand. And the 5th one comes full circle, because we're looking at how to design flexible work-life integration, meaning managing your business around your life rather than vice versa. So that's what I'm going to take you through today. I'll just take away that logo so it's not coming onto my slide beautifully. And let's dive in. So if you are on Zoom, I can see your questions. I think the others I can't, I'm afraid. There's too many different channels, but I will check through all the different places where I've gone live afterwards in case you have asked questions. So if you're watching LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, do comment, say hello, ask any questions, and I'll be sure to pick them up after the session. Now, those of you who are here, who are registered, and if you're watching the replay as well, because I will be sending that out, do you have the workbook? You guys who are on Zoom here, can you confirm to me that you've got the workbook? Now, those of you who aren't registered won't have this, but I will be still sending, sharing the questions with you. So if you grab an empty workbook, grab an empty notebook, then you can just take notes and so on, and obviously screenshot and whatever you want to do. So the 5 pillars, the first one is the most important. And this is what my whole philosophy is about, my whole podcast as well, reimagining success. Are you actually crystal clear on what really matters in your life? And that's the core question. And it's a big one. Now, apologies for those who have been to my trainings before. I tend to share this quite a bit because I think it's really important and insightful. The definition of success is not just fame, fortune, and so on, right? It's also, if you look at number 1 there on the screen, the accomplishment of an aim or a purpose. The accomplishment of an aim or purpose. And this to me is incredible. It's so empowering because it means we get to decide what that aim or purpose is. Unfortunately, it means that we have to decide what that aim or purpose is. So with great freedom comes great responsibility. It means that perhaps we have been following another definition of success, maybe society's, our parents, our own from the past, or perhaps we didn't even know that we were following any kind of aim or purpose. And so we've just kind of been plodding along without really thinking about where we're going. So my big call to action to you today, and if you're only watching these first few minutes and you go off to your day-to-day job or whatever, this is the question I leave you with, which is, what is your aim or purpose? What does success look like for you? And you can answer this from a big picture perspective in life. You can answer it, your aim or purpose today in this session. What's my aim or purpose? You can use that question on so many levels, but it's a really powerful one. And it helps you to disregard what other people are doing because you have this aim. You know that this is what you're doing. These are the right things to be focusing on, and this is what's meaningful to you. And that's really, really powerful. So my question to you is, and again, if you're on Zoom, please feel free to answer. Now, if you have a business already, why did you start that business in the first place? So when I do the escape plan, which is for people who haven't left their job yet, we talk about the 5 pillars, of course, but we talk about the push reasons, as I said, pushing out of the 9 to 5, and the pull reasons towards something else, right? So the push reasons can be, as I said, the toxic work culture, the commute, the long hours, the poor work-life balance, etc. The pull reasons are the good stuff. That's the freedom, flexibility, and fulfillment. It's more time with your family. It's doing work that makes an impact. But if you have been in business for a few years, you may well have lost sight of that big picture. Very quickly, when things aren't going so well, and we have had a couple of tough years in many industries and globally, in fact, perhaps personally as well, then we begin to panic and we think, oh my goodness, there's not enough money coming in. We take work that we don't really want to be doing just because we need the money. We might even be tempted back into a job and so on. And that's fine. We have to do what we have to do. But it's really important to remember, to remind ourselves why we made this huge leap in the first place. Why are we making these changes? Because let's face it, it's always going to be difficult. So we have to be motivated. We have to have a real drive to do that. So my question for you is, why did you start your business in the first place? Have you lost sight of that? Is it still the same? Has it evolved? And are you working towards that goal still? Because possibly you're not. And possibly the goal has changed. But having said all this, when we talk about success and purpose, it feels so big. And I think a lot of my clients think, oh, it's quite intimidating. And we have lots of exercises we can do and have done. But I love this quote from Hector Garcia, who wrote one of the many books on Ikigai, which is, as an aside, a fantastic concept from Japan on your reason for getting out of bed in the morning, your raison d'être, as we'd say in French, really that drive that keeps people living a long and happy existence over in Okinawa in Japan. Life is not a problem to be solved. Just remember to have something that keeps you busy doing what you love while being surrounded by the people who love you. Now, I think this applies to all of us, but it's, again, up to you how you define success, but it doesn't have to be complicated. I want to be enjoying my days. I want to be doing work that makes a difference. Obviously, want to be paid for it as well. That's an important part. And I want to spend time with my partner, with my children, with my family, whatever family looks like for you and so on. It's not rocket science. And yet we often lose sight of that. So don't be intimidated by this idea of purpose and meaning and so on. Now, another framework that you may know if you've been part of my community, and if not, let me introduce it to you, is the 5 L's. For me, and we'll talk about this when we get into work-life integration as well, the 5th pillar, it's important not just to focus single-mindedly on work and career in the sense of climbing the corporate career ladder, but in the context of business, in the sense of being a best-selling Amazon author and, getting up in the charts. I've been looking at, I was going to say trying to, but I've been looking at least the podcast charts, and I'm seeing my podcast sort of dance around in the top 100 and so on. It's easy to get fixated on that, losing sight of what's actually important. And of course, the goal is to reach more people. And I'd love to be in the top charts and have a bigger platform and so on. But in the meantime, it's about the impact I'm making with my current clients and what I'm doing, not to mention these other areas. So the 5 L's are live, love, learn, lead, laugh. Live is your health and well-being. When you are your business, taking care of you is taking care of your business, by the way. So if you don't have that healthy physical, mental, emotional, spiritual well-being in place, you're not going to be able to do all the amazing things you want to be doing in work either. Love, that's not just romance, but relationships with family, with friends, professionally, belonging, being part of a community. Learn, development and growth. I'm sure, and I know some of the people here who I can see share my value of lifelong learning, and we're driven and we're motivated and we want to learn, and that's a really important goal as well. Now, lead is career and impact. So career and business is an important part of this, but it's only a part of it, right? It's not the only thing that matters when we talk about success. And finally, and this one is a little bit tricky, but if we're not having fun, why bother, right? So it's this area that kind of gets put to one side. And yeah, I really think it's something to consider. And it's hard to think about success when it comes to having fun, but it still needs to be there somehow in some shape or another in your life, I think. And unfortunately, as a parent, as a business owner and so on, it often gets put to the last on the list, I suppose. So Enough of me babbling on. I'm going to put the timer on here so that we can continue to move forwards. And I should say, I'm only giving you a couple of minutes for each of these questions. I really encourage you to come back to the replay, come back to your workbook, come back to your notes, and have a go at these later on, because it can and will take much longer than just the 90 minutes we have together. But my first question is, what if what you're working on, all works out exactly as you hope? 3 years from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, what does that actually look like? So I'll set the timer and you can have a go at writing that down in your workbook. But this is a really important question because, again, if you don't know what you're actually trying to design, and I think it's a really hard question for us because we tend to always answer that with, oh, but I think I should do this because that's where my skill set is, or it seems easier to get clients this way, and I need to do that, rather than, no, hang on a second, what do I actually want to create? So I always say you have to put the what before the how. What is it that you're actually trying to achieve here? And remember, the 5 L's, we're not just talking the business, we're talking, hey, in 5 years' time or whenever, we don't have to put a time limit on it right now, I want to be living in this place, having a small group of really engaged clients. I'm living by the sea. I'm loving the work I do. I have a dog. Whatever that looks like for you. I had a client who had a horse, and really understanding what that looks like. Again, life and business. Or perhaps you want to have a massive company where you've got VC investment and so on. That's not really the kind of strategy that I teach, but if that's what you want, then that's really important to get clear on too. So I'll shut up so you can have a go at that. I'll turn myself off and answer the question, what if it all works out exactly as you hope? Okay, so how was that? Is that easy to answer? Is it difficult? Is it scary? Is it exciting? I think we rarely take time to ask that question, right? Because we're so busy following tactics and doing things and so on. Hang on a second, what are we actually trying to create? So I really encourage you to reflect on that beyond the quick little 2 minutes I've given you today, but it's really the foundation of everything else. My next question, and I'll turn myself off again so you can focus on this one, is where are you today? So versus that vision that you just shared briefly in terms of what you're trying to create, where are you today versus that vision? What's missing? Is it, in which of those 5 L's, remember, relationships or learning or career or well-being, even what's missing in terms of your lifestyle and the business? What do you want more of? Do you want more of a sense of purpose? Do you want more money? Do you want more work-life balance, whatever that looks like for you? So compared to that big vision of everything working out, where are you today and what's missing? Quite odd for me to sit here in silence while you do this, but I find it so important for you to actually have the time to answer these questions rather than for you to come and me just talk at you for an hour and a bit. So I hope you're finding it interesting and these prompts are getting those cogs whirring. Okay, so I'm getting in the Zoom. Yeah, I find this so difficult. What is it about it you find difficult? And this is in itself a really important piece of awareness, right? And when I ask the question, what do you want more of? Somehow, sometimes that's a harder question to ask. So one way you can reframe it is, what do you want less of? What don't you want? So if I don't know exactly what I want my business to look like, what don't I want it to look like? So I had a coach some years ago who's, rocketed into the stratosphere. She's doing incredibly well. She now has a team of 40, 50 people. They all teach things for her. She's got a very different business model, and that's not actually what I want. Maybe that's what I want in the future, but for now I have a so-called lifestyle business. I'm working 3 days a week because that's when the kids are at nursery. I have certain goals in terms of I want to publish books and I want to teach and do these workshops and I want to have my individual coaching and so on. I want to write. There are certain things I want, but there's also an important piece of what I don't want. I don't want to be tied to commuting to client offices, which I did at some point. I don't want to be away from my family for weeks and weeks on end, or all day, long hours, and missing bedtime and so on, right? So if you can't do the what do you want more of and what do you want, try to think about it after the session. What don't you want? Because that might be an easier question, and then you can begin to sort of do a process of elimination. And remember the 5 L's as well. So live, love, learn, lead, laugh. What are the other areas in your life that need more or less attention right now? So again, that's a question of more or less. I'll start the time already. In terms of your well-being, do you need to focus more on your physical health? And I'm not here to teach you about nutrition and exercise. And yet, there are certain things like sleep, very important, drinking lots of water, getting out and about in the fresh air, important for your physical and your mental health, and obviously eating nutritiously and so on. I've been working with a coach now for the last year in terms of, I guess, getting in shape after having the kids and eating the right things. I've been feeling really good. I'm really prioritizing exercise. I'm doing my runs and strength workouts first thing in the morning. And I'm making sure, after this workshop, 90 minutes on screen, and I was recording videos for my course earlier today, I'll make sure I go for a walk, get some fresh air, and then I've got more videos and interviews and things in the afternoon, right? So well-being. What about relationships? Are you neglecting, either if you're single? For a long time I was single and I wasn't really allowing space for that in my life, or if you're in a relationship, do you have quality time with your spouse, your children, your aging parents, your loved ones? Then we have the learning area. Do you feel like you've been stagnating a bit in the business and you'd love to do a course or even just read or listen to podcasts and so on, right? We've got the career area, the business impact. What do you want to be doing there to really up level in your business? And finally, remember fun. So there's this book by Eve Rodsky called Unicorn Space, Finding Your Unicorn Space, in fact. Haven't read it all yet, but I just love the idea of unicorn space. It's sort of your hobby, but it's something so much more than that. It's an outlet for your creative self-expression. It's that magic thing that makes you uniquely you. So what's your unicorn space, and have you been neglecting that? So the 5 areas, not just your business, other areas. And the reason why this is so important, apart from having a balanced set of goals, is that if you're already burning out with, let's say, a side hustle alongside your full-time job, or if you've just had a baby, which is sometimes the case if you're going on maternity leave, whatever it is, then that might need attention before you set yourself goals. I'm part of a mastermind at the moment with 3 people who actually don't have kids, and I've already realized that I think based on the number of hours I work in the week and based on my priorities, we do have a slightly different outlook on things, and that's really interesting and powerful. But it does help me be a little bit more patient and think of the long term, that maybe this is not my peak, most incredible, powerful career moment, because I've got 2 little ones. I was going to say under 2, but Sophia's just turned 3. So, I have still my ambitions and I still have work that I want to focus on, but it's not going to be only, business at the expense of everything else for me right now. And finally, for each of these, I'm going to ask you just one step. So looking back, so perhaps if you found this exercise difficult, how can you move forward from this? What is it that you need to focus on? Is there something maybe that's come out of the 5 L's that, hang on a second, I actually want to really work on my physical and mental health before I even entertain the idea of up-leveling in my business? Or is there something about your relationships that you want to prioritize? Perhaps there's something about getting clarity. I have full framework on how to get clear on your vision and your values and that purpose and getting that balance and so on, is that something you want to dig into more? And of course, as for all of these, I do one-to-one coaching on these as a deep dive. So especially on this pillar 1 and also pillar 4, personal branding, we can really go deep on that. So if it's something that you need help with, do get in touch. You can comment, of course, so you can message me on whatever platform you're watching at the moment. So does everyone have a one step? I am moving forwards quite quickly because we have a lot to get through. And again, this is sort of an overview, an introduction, and I really encourage you to come back and continue working on it. So I'm getting some yeses on Zoom, so thanks so much. We will move forwards onto the second pillar. Now, I know we're still not really getting into the nitty gritty of business and so on, but bear with me, trust the process, because these 2 pillars are so critical. So we have our big picture vision of what's important. The second one is confidence and resilience. It's what we call mindset. It's feeling equipped to deal with those inevitable ups and downs in our business. And I've designed my own little graphic here. You can see why I'm not a designer, but I'm sure this is familiar to some of you, depending on where you are in the process. Initially, we're in the job, maybe we're thinking of quitting and starting a business. Oh my gosh, so many fears of failure, fear of success, fear of making mistakes. What if I can't pay the bills? And am I good enough? And I'm not entrepreneurial and so on. Then, woohoo, there's this amazing euphoria of I've quit. It's amazing. The world is open to every possibility and I'm living my best life. Then suddenly your days are stretching out in front of you. Oh, I don't know what I'm doing. Then you have an amazing idea and then it's not working. And then you go first client and then suddenly you don't have the money coming in anymore and you start looking at, applying to jobs. And then, each of these peaks, and I haven't illustrated that very, very well, is actually then getting higher, right? Each dip ideally is still higher than you were before. So it's really important to look back at where you were. It's a huge achievement already to take the leap of starting a business. And then obviously we raise the bar continuously. The fact that I have a podcast, I've done 3 years worth of podcast episodes. I'd never even heard of podcasting a few years ago, right? I didn't even know how to start a blog and so on. And now I have 2 professionally designed websites with years worth of content, with an incredible streamlined process of signing up and all these fancy things I couldn't even have imagined years ago. I've literally just, and I'll share this at the end, completed a course as well, which has been on my list for so many years. And there's this huge moment of celebration, which we often miss because we're always rushing to the next thing. For me, the next thing is now to write my next book. And it's so easy just to go to that and to get frustrated because we look at other people who are doing better. Again, I, for various reasons, can't accelerate to full throttle right now. And it's so easy then to be frustrated when we're comparing ourselves to other people. One book that I read last year, and I love Dory Clark. If you haven't heard of her, you can follow her. She's got a LinkedIn newsletter. She's got an email newsletter. And she wrote this book, The Long Game. And it just came perfect timing for me because exactly what I've been thinking about in this framework. I can read it out so you're not reading while I'm talking. If it were easy to be patient and easy to do the work, then everyone would do it. What I've come to love about patience is that ultimately it's the truest test of merit. Are you willing to do the work despite no guaranteed outcome? We earn our success by toiling without recognition, accolades, or even certainty that it's going to come to fruition. We have to take it on faith and do it anyway. That's strategic patience. You have to surround yourself with people you admire and trust and learn from their example. You have to study what's worked before and what you wish to emulate and then determine where you want to do something different. But the core there is this idea of toiling without recognition. It doesn't sound very appealing, but we all know that feeling. I've been working on this course for weeks, months, not to mention the years prior that have gone into the thinking and so on. And I do have a couple of people who said they're interested in so on, but really it's down to me, right? I'm driving myself and I have no idea. I have a very strong inkling that it's going to be a very powerful piece of my business model. It's going to be incredibly useful for others. And if nothing else, it's really crystallized my thinking. It goes through the 5 pillars. And yet, in the meantime, there's no recognition. Nobody's going, well done, Anna, for working on the course. You've recorded the videos now, you've uploaded them into the website. And I tend to tell my clients that, there's a 3-month cycle, more or less, so if I'm being really active now, going live on Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn, and I'm nurturing conversations, I'm not going to see the results of that the next day. We're usually seeing the results of the work we did, 2-3 months ago. So if things are booming, you obviously did a great job kind of 3 months ago. If they're not going so well, possibly you took your foot off the pedal and then, things were a little bit not so effective a few months ago, perhaps. So strategic patience, being in it for the long term, not just getting caught up in the metrics of, Instagram likes and followers and whatever, but really thinking of every person you speak to, making a difference for them, going on, looking looking at the big picture, that big picture vision that we looked at in your definition of success, and taking little steps to get you there, right? So this is a really important message for me. Now, I've mentioned the health and well-being piece. This is so critical. And self-care, I know it's sort of a hashtag self-care on Instagram, but it's a really important piece of taking care of yourself to deal with this resilience, right? If you've had any bad nights of sleep, you'll know that when you've not slept well, I sometimes get migraines, less so these days, but still now and then, the day becomes so difficult. Trying then to deal with, tech issues with a webinar, or a customer service issue, or whatever it is, or even just recording videos and things, I can't do it. So that's why it's so important to take care of yourself mentally, physically, emotionally, to deal with those ups and downs. And this is from a while ago now, but I love it so much. I asked in my business accelerator, what do you think is the best piece of it? And very kindly they said, obviously having access to an expert advisor and so on, to a coach. But without fail, without exception, each of them talked about the group, the community, and having a community of people to cheer you on, to empathize, to hold you accountable. That's so critical. So if you're in my Escaping the 9 to 5 Facebook group, that's a great place to start. Obviously, if you join the accelerator or a paid mastermind, that kind of thing, or in fact, you can create your own free mastermind if you want to, as long as you have the structure and idea of what you want to do. That community is so critical. It can be such a lonely journey working for yourself, and it's so powerful to have people who believe in you. They might not necessarily be your immediate friends and family, right? So really important to look for online, offline communities, people who are doing it, so that you can believe in it yourself too, because people around you believe too. Okay, so we're back. Now I'm going to put the timer on, and I'd love, if you can put it in the chat here, I'd love to celebrate these globally, I was going to say, but publicly. But what I really encourage you to do is look back on your journey so far. What can you celebrate? So again, if you're watching YouTube, LinkedIn, where else are we? Facebook. If you're watching the replay that I've sent you, do either ping me back an answer or comment, and let us all know, what can you celebrate? And it can be, registering the company. It can be, almost don't want to give you examples because I don't want to in any way diminish anything you've thought of, right? Something that to you seemed really difficult, going live for the first time, recording a video, writing a first post, creating an Instagram profile, getting your first client. Amazing. That's fantastic. And with a month, that's such good news. Congratulations. And it's the first of many. And yet in the meantime, strategic patience, right? Remember that each client, if I'm here getting upset that I've only got, 20, 50, 100 people, whatever that number is for you, depending on how big a business is, watching this live or on replay, I'm forgetting if it's one person, two people who've turned up here, they're giving me their time and trust to show up. It's hugely valuable, and I'm respecting that, and I'm giving them my very best. Because you can't then go, oh, I wish I had 1,000 people watching. Yes, fine, but do the work first with those first people. Treat everyone like they are the most important, and that is absolutely the most important thing to do anyway. And then they will become ambassadors, go forth and recommend you, and so on. Hosting a fireside chat, love it, amazing. And you don't have to answer this, but think about, how can you celebrate ongoing, right? So again, do you have people in your life? I think it was a coach actually in the past. She said that her mum used to give her a congratulations card every time she got a client. I imagine she doesn't do that anymore, but how nice isn't that? So to celebrate not just the first client, but every client, have a ring the bell, as they do on some of those sort of estate agents shows and things. Or can you, it doesn't have to be something that costs a lot of money or anything. It can be a little treat, maybe a massage or something. It can just be, going out for dinner, going for a bath. I don't know, but something really simple, but something to celebrate and remind yourself. Buy yourself a card. Yes, do it. Love it. So important, right? And in a way, I love that in particular, because you'll discover that you're alone to some extent in your business. This is why the support group is so important. And yet no one cares as much as you care. And so when we're looking for external validation, I can say to somebody or to my partner or a friend, I've worked on this course, it's so amazing, I'm so excited. And they'll go, oh yeah, well done. They don't understand what it's taken me to overcome the limitations and, my goodness, the tech and showing up on video and structuring it and the years and so on, right? Only I can really understand that. Maybe other people who have also gone through the same process, which is why those like-minded people are so important. But ultimately it's you. So buy yourself a card. Absolutely. Buy yourself flowers or a treat or whatever it is. Love it. Okay, next one is, what will you add to your self toolkit? Meaning anything you want really, but is it, working possibly with a personal trainer, nutritionist, if that's an area? Is it having a bath every evening, a ritual of chamomile tea? I've got one of these sort of diffuser things now by my bed that has calming oils. I don't know if it makes a difference, but to me, it's like a psychological thing. I've had a long day, put it on. I did enjoy baths a lot, less so now that it's getting warmer, but in the winter, that's been a big part. Just going out for a walk, doing a little boogie. What else can you do to put in place the structures? Plan in your calendar, and we'll talk about this in pillar 5. Is there someone you need to talk to? Is it a professional expert, whether it's a therapist or a trainer or whatever? So what can you add into your self-care toolkit? Thinking of your physical well-being, your mental well-being, your emotional well-being as well. What friends can you speak to? Do you do a regular call with a family member, a good friend? Turn off your notifications, turn off your social media. Can you do a digital detox maybe once a month? I haven't done that ever, I think, so that might be something to consider. What can you add into your self-care toolkit to help you really get that foundation in place? Oh, I turned off the countdown instead of my camera. Poof, that's fine. We'll move on to the next one, but I'll let you finish that up to make sure you've thought about that. So what can you add into your self-care toolkit? And whenever I ask this, people always have, I put a podcast on, I listen to some music, I go play the piano, I go for a ride, I climb a mountain, whatever it is that you want to do. It can be big, it can be, obviously, it's good to have a mix of things that you can do easily and cheaply, and then bigger things as well. Okay, so importantly, I've been talking about that support system, and we want to look at different types of support. We want to look at professional mentors and coaches. So I know I'm already working with some of you. So, experts who can actually guide you either end to end, big picture as I do, or on a specific thing. No, I want to really get good at showing up on video or get good at sales. What mentors can you work with? Cheerleaders. So do you have someone in your family, friendship group, peers? Accountability. Again, with fitness, we have a WhatsApp group with my coach. I have her, in fact, as well. If I'm having a tough time, I'll ask to have regular check-ins and so on. Can you get a friend to do that? In the Accelerator as well, we partner people up with accountability partners. So the two questions are, what do you already have in place? A supportive partner, family, whatever, a coach. And what do you still need? Do you need people who are doing similar things to you? Do you need an accountability partner because you kind of know what you need to do, but you don't have someone who's holding you accountable? Do you need that professional guide expert who can let you know, okay, this is how you put together your email funnel or whatever it is, if it's a specific thing you need to learn, or even, I don't even know how to get started, or actually I'm not seeing the conversion sales that I want. So how can I get someone to look at that with me to give me really tailored advice and not just, blanket random advice that you're getting from Instagram or whatever. So what support system do you already have in place, and what do you still need? So important. We don't want you feeling alone. Again, it can be free groups, online, offline, in person, something you create yourself, something that exists already, but so critical. The last thing you want to do is give up simply because you didn't give yourself a fighting chance. You didn't have that support structure in place, and so you doubted yourself. If only you'd had that expertise and emotional support, you would have realized, hey, everyone goes through these dips, and on that dip chart, you would have kept going. So it's being in the long haul, long game as well. And on this one then, what is your one step? Is it something to do with self-care? I tend to go to bed quite early these days, since I know I'm going to wake up early with my little Zaki, who tends to wake up on the early side, 6:30 today, so that wasn't so bad. Is it, what else did we talk about? Is it joining maybe a community of people in your industry, or local people, depending on, I have some clients who like to find, local groups where you can actually attend in person. Maybe it's conferences and things to go to, right? Because often I go to learn things, but what the main purpose is for me is A, to meet people, and B, it reassures me that actually I do know what I'm doing. So that's always powerful too. So what's your one step on this, the second pillar? And then we're going to get more concrete into the business model and the brand and so on. Does everyone have a one step here? Looking for different self-care tools, or a cheerleader, or buying yourself a card? That's on the to-do list as well, right? Okay, so now we're getting into the good stuff, the things that you're all here for, right? The actual strategy. What is the business model that's going to get you to your vision, your version of success? And again, a little bit of a definition. We love a good definition. A business model is a plan for the successful operation of a business. And remember, successful operation in our conversation, in our one step outside community here, means not just the financial success, not the fame and fortune. It means whatever you want it to mean, right? It's your aim or purpose. So for me, the business model, the right business model, is one that supports your definition of success. It gets you the 5 L's, not just the 1 L. It gets you, of course, yes, the income, because that's what then enables you to do all the other things, but it also allows you the work-life integration, the fulfillment, the freedom, the flexibility. So that's really key. The last thing I want you to do is, and I see this, obviously I'm in this world, so I get bombarded with these ads and posts from various gurus for saying, this is the model you have to do. You have to do 5-day launches every week, or launches are dead. You have to do DMs, or webinars, no webinars, workshops, no workshops, group programs, individual, all these things, right? And it's, what on earth do I do? None of these people know what your criteria are, what your lifestyle aspirations are, what you would enjoy doing as well. What does your ideal day, ideal year look like? I've had clients who, want to take 3 months off, for example. So it's not great for them to have a membership program where you have to show up every month with content and be live on calls and so on if they want to take time off. Or obviously in the weeks and months really directly after having a baby, we don't necessarily want to be showing up live and so on as well. So can we create some more passive sources there? Do we hate video? Video is a great thing to learn, to get comfortable with, to build trust and so on. But if we really hate it, that's probably not the right tool for us, right? So again, if you have one takeaway from this one and overall, it's that you really need to choose a business model that's going to get you to where you want to be, and forget what other people are doing. What's both scary and empowering here is that you get to create your own model. And one of the core questions with a business model is, who do you want to work with? We tend to talk in marketing about B2B or B2C. So you've got business to business or business to consumer. Business to business can be great because assumptions are they have bigger budgets, bigger projects, project scope. You need fewer clients. You've probably got an expertise that's relevant to those companies coming from the corporate background anyway. On the other hand, many stakeholders, it's complex. Maybe you're trying to escape that world, so you don't want to go back into that world. Working B2C, I mainly do, individual coaching and group coaching with individuals. It's much more personal, I feel. But of course, it means, depending on what you're charging, that you're probably going to need to work with more people in order for that to be financially viable. There are other sides to that as well. So really think about who you want to work with. They have to understand that they have a problem that you can solve. They have to be willing and able to invest in a solution. But importantly, and this is something I think most people don't say, I recommend that you choose people who share your values, who will respect your boundaries. We'll talk about this in the 5th pillar, but if I want to design a business that puts my lifestyle, my children, my family first, it's really valuable to have clients. And of course, that is the case for me, because that's why you're here. You're wanting to design and build that life outside the 9 to 5 as well. Then you'll be much more understanding if I have certain boundaries of, I don't answer emails on Sundays, or I'm not available on WhatsApp in the evening, or whatever those rules are for you. And that's really important. If you go to, let's say, unfortunately, big corporate clients, you have less autonomy there, and it's harder to set those boundaries because the expectations, especially as the budget gets higher, are much higher, right? But these are the kinds of questions you want to be asking. Who do you want to work with? But also, who is going to be a good fit for you? You might not know this straight off the bat, and you'll soon learn. You'll have bad experiences, and that's okay, because it's part of the learning process. And then you can go, oh, I definitely don't want to work with clients like that. The next thing, of course, once you have the client, is what are the products and services you're developing? And I share my example. It's either familiar with you, or at least it's certainly familiar for me. Obviously, I don't know you now watching what kind of business you have, if you're a designer or a copywriter or a wedding planner or a coach, consultant, whatever. But just to illustrate what to think about here, we're looking at providing different offerings at different price points, different point of entry into your ecosystem. We're looking at progressing in terms of the client journey. So for me, I started with one-to-one. I always recommend that because it's a great way to validate your models, develop materials as you go. It's easier to get a couple of clients staggered than it is to need to get 100 clients at the same time, even 10, 20 clients at the same time in a cohort to get them to go on. There's a lot of pressure then to do a big launch. So I recommend starting with a one-to-one service. And then as you prove that, as you validate, as you get the experience, then in my case, I developed, what became the 5 pillars. Oh, this really lends itself to working in a group, because yes, there's a one-to-one element that people always want, but people have the same kind of problems. They come and get up against the same obstacles. I'm finding myself saying the same thing again and again, so I can develop audio training, video training, PDF, as well as having group calls so they get that group dynamic, so that I can give them both the benefit of the tailored support, but also they have access to the community and they have all these materials they can work through in their own time. So that then led to a group program for me. For me, as they graduate out of that, or out of the one-to-one, I have the Business Accelerator, more affordable, ongoing support. We've had people in there for 2-3 years, really working on these 5 pillars to implement and to have the accountability, the community, all the things we've talked about. And then today, as I record in May 2022, I finally got this self-paced course, which is, again, more affordable for someone who perhaps isn't ready to invest, but also importantly gives the foundations that you can then build on in the accelerator, for example, right? So a little self-indulgent to talk through my programs, but to illustrate to you how I've thought this through, how it's happened organically as well. So you want to be thinking in the future, okay, yes, you want to have the passive income, you want the group and so on, but start with a one-to-one. Don't try to sell to thousands before you've even sold, to 10 people, right? So start step by step, knowing that that's where you want to get to. And as you validate your frameworks, as you build your credibility, as you build your audience, then you'll be ready to develop group offerings and to perhaps have something a bit more passive as well, if that makes sense. And then I talked about the ecosystem there, right? This is just a snapshot. And again, it's easy to look at other people and be a little bit intimidated if they've been in business 5-10 years. When I first started, I had a free blog, which looks horrendous. I think you can find it on one of those time machine websites or whatever. But I started blogging. It was a personal blog. It became professional. Then I started, I think, a monthly newsletter. Maybe I started the Facebook group. I developed a few free ebooks and so on. And it's taken me, many years, what did I say, 5, 6, 7 years now to get to this. I've got that 1 and I'm going to say a half books because that book is coming out later this year, the podcast, the programs. I've started doing, of course, this masterclass. I do workshops. I've got the Facebook group. I've got now 3 comprehensive resources that I give out for free, etc., etc. So envisioning where you want to get to, again, don't let it intimidate you or put you off, but think forwards into the vision of what you want that ecosystem to look like, and then you can break it down and we can focus on one thing over the next 3 months. I always talk about 2018 was a big year for me. I wanted to launch my first group program. That's already 4 years ago, my goodness. Podcast and book. Dabbled a little bit in each of them, of course, didn't do any of them. So ultimately I decided, okay, I have to break it down one thing at a time. Of course, I still did a little bit in each one, but I decided, okay, priority is group program. So I launched that in February 2018. That was what became the Business Incubator. And then I got the book out by my birthday. If anyone's ever written a book, you'll know that you just kind of keep going. You have to set yourself a deadline. And I forced myself, just like a little bit I've done with the course now. So October 2018. And then the podcast, literally middle of December, I think, really at the end of the year. But I did all 3 things, but I had to stagger them. Likewise, this year, I've learned my lesson. I'm a little bit wiser now, but I had 2 main priorities alongside everything else I'm doing. And they were the course, finished now, we're only in May, plenty of time to spare. And I'm so excited because finishing the course means my next sequential thing is to work on the book, which is still on the 5 pillars, which is pretty much reflecting, mirroring the content of the course, what we're talking about today. And I'm really excited because I've always wanted to be a writer and I love writing and so on. But so I've got these 2 big goals. I can't work on them at the same time. I was doing a little bit on the course, a little bit on the book, but I made it really clear in my mind. No, first is the course done, boom, incredibly satisfying, tick, can start selling that. And then I work on the book. So by all means, work a little bit here and there, but be really clear what's going to make the biggest difference for you in your business right now, knowing that you can build all these other incredible things in the future. Okay, enough of me babbling. So the key part for you to answer before you start going, should I have a group program? Should I have a course, etc., is what are your criteria? This is going to let you assess different models that different people are recommending, different ideas, opportunities that you have. So put the timer on. A couple of things to 100% consider. One is your target income. So maybe you're trying to replicate a corporate salary. You might have a minimum, break even kind of salary you're trying to reach, or you have a stretched dream random number in mind, whatever that is. You need to know what that is, of course, because that's going to help us break down your targets into an actual strategy. And then your hours. These are pretty simple aspects, right? But important to think about. Do you want to be working? So if you take, what is it? The 52 weeks of 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, I believe that's 2,000 and something hours, right? We don't want to work 2,000 and something hours. You might want to take 3 months off. You might want to only be able to work 3 days a week. You might want to only work 6-hour days and so on. right? So what are the criteria in terms of hours? And then anything else, meaning preferences in terms of the kind of work you're doing, the skills, the people you're working with, the commute, the lack of commute, the travel, if you want to do travel or not. Do you want to be in person? Do you want to be helping as many people as possible? Even if that means just helping them a little bit, like with a course or something, you can help a lot of people, but I won't be able to be there in person with you. Or do you want to go really deep with people, make a huge impact and be present, but that means working with a handful of people, maybe intimate group or one-to-one, and charging much more, let's say, right? So again, I'll leave you the last 30 seconds there to think about it, but think about any and all criteria for making this business work for you and for achieving your definition of success. Okay, how did you get on with that one? That's quite a comprehensive one. It might be super clear in your mind, but of course, if some of you said you found already pillar one quite difficult to get clear on what you want and what you don't want, you might not have this in mind. However, knowing the question is almost as important as finding the answer, right? Knowing that you don't yet know what your target income is, knowing that you don't know what your ideal business, ideal day and week look like is really critical, because that means you can go off and find out. The second one is getting a little bit more nitty gritty. What does your ideal working week look like? So the thing is, we tend to latch onto something that looks a lot like the 9 to 5. When I first left, I went very rebellious and I didn't have an alarm. I don't need an alarm anymore because I've got little Zach waking me up, but I just followed my energy and I was spontaneous, and I have a lot of clients who don't want to have that routine, but having a routine is what creates the freedom that you're after, actually. And so understanding, it could be, well, actually I only want to work 3 days a week, or only can work 3 days a week. Maybe that's not possible now, but it's something to work towards. And I would say as well, I don't subscribe to the strategy of hustling away now and then later creating work-life balance. Not going to happen. What's going to happen if you build a business on clients who don't respect your boundaries, on working late into the night, weekends, long hours? Well, you're going to be successful building a really stressful, unappealing business, and that's no good. So I always say, be idealistic in the long term, pragmatic in the short term, yes, but make sure you're setting those boundaries, you're putting in place a support system, you're doing the self-care, you're making sure you're working with the right clients from the start. And of course, you can make compromises. If they're offering you so much money that it is worth as a one-off working late or whatever that is, then of course that's a choice you can make. But we're thinking about the ideal working week looks like. And something to consider depending on the work you're doing. If you're a therapist, if you're a coach, if you're creative, in fact, most jobs really, we can't do back to back to back to back, right? So I can't do, especially if I'm doing something like your definition of success, the work-life balance, the deeper personal things, I get quite involved. And as a coach, I need to be very present and listening. And even a presentation like this, right? I'm getting better. So I did do my, 6 or 7 videos this morning for my course, my little intro videos. I can now turn the camera on and do this 90-minute workshop because I know the content. I've done it before. I know the 5 pillars inside out. But certainly when starting out, I wouldn't have blocked, 3 of these workshops in one day. And I can't do 8 client calls in one day. So have a think about, well, I'm going to work with a maximum of 5 individual clients, or maybe 1 or 2. I had a web designer client, so she was looking at, okay, well, I can only really do 1 big project and 2 smaller, let's say, at the same time. So really think about, do you want to be doing 1 corporate workshop a month or a week and work with 5 individual clients, and you want to be creating content, you want to be traveling, and so on. So again, I'll keep stum and you can have a think about what your ideal working week might look like. And it's an interesting question, right, that we don't usually ask ourselves, because as an employee, we don't have a choice. We've kind of just assumed this 9 to 5, and I know it's never 9 to 5, is there. And predictions in the past were that actually, as technology came along and improved, we'd do much fewer hours in the week. We've got Tim Ferriss, who kind of kicked off this whole movement around the 4-hour work week. There are such extremes, and yet now we're talking, a 4-day work week, is that even possible? I do a 3-day work week. So what does your ideal working week look like? When I met my partner Luke, then he was doing a 9 to 5 Monday to Friday in the city, and so I sort of fell into more of that Monday to Friday routine because I wanted to be free in the evenings and the weekends. As I said, when I first started, I was very could work anytime. I love my work so much, so I don't mind working all the time. Danger. And now, again, I'm structuring it really around Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, and around nap time and that kind of thing. So, it can and will evolve, but the question is then, what does your ideal working week look like? And finally, and for those of you who are further along, this is going to be easier. If you're just starting out, maybe you're not yet sure, and we can have a chat, but you want to be thinking about what's the one product and service. Remember, I talked about starting with one-to-one coaching in my case, or maybe you're delivering logo design, or I had someone who's planning music for a wedding, right? But what's the one thing that there's a combination of criteria here that fit your criteria the best, that is sort of low-hanging fruit, but at least you can see how you can bring it to life already. It doesn't require a huge amount of tech. This course is only possible because I've had years to develop my thinking and so on, but also I now know I've got the video camera, the lighting, the recording equipment. I've had a lot of experience of understanding what the software is. My website's already there. I've already got the payment process and so on, right? If you now need to do something, with very little income, and you're suddenly wanting to invest in this massive infrastructure and needs huge marketing and tech and so on, maybe not the best thing to focus on. So what's your flagship product? And I always tell my clients to really think about, what would you love to do? If you could make the biggest difference to your clients, what does that look like end to end? Ideally, I'd take you from, I kind of have an idea, I don't know what it is, through to, I have my first paying clients, I know exactly what I'm doing, I've got the business model and so on, but I'd also then love to continue. That's why I have the accelerator, in actually getting you to a sustainable, happy place. It's not enough just to say I quit. That's amazing. That's sort of my business incubator program. But then I found with experience that it's after that leap that we need the most support to some extent, right? So what does that look like for you? If you've been doing one-to-one, I had a functional nutritionist who was working with people. We were looking at, okay, ideally, it wouldn't just be a one-off call with some, it'd be like a 12-week, 3-month program at least, where we do these tests, these analyses, we'd really have time to implement dietary changes and so on. And then again, maybe after that, there's kind of an ongoing membership. Or you do a meditation course where you're doing live sessions, you're learning. And again, then there's maybe a membership ongoing program. We have access to the materials without having the intensive. I feel that often we do these big, exciting retreats, and then we disappear off into our lives and we forget all about them. So again, it's a combination of what fits your criteria, what do you feel most drawn to do, what's a low-hanging fruit, if we use that corporate terminology, in terms of something that isn't too infrastructure heavy and so on. And that's why the whole service-based business model is so good. We don't have to, a product-based business usually takes at least 3 years to become profitable. If I'm a coach or consultant, I'm a big fan of a website, but I could literally just message people, change my LinkedIn profile, have conversations, and deliver a service. I don't need to have an office and all these materials and investments and so on up front. Okay, I know that's a big one. I know we can't answer everything, but the core question again for you is, what are your criteria? How do you best want to deliver your solution? How can you best deliver a solution that's going to fit with your criteria and help your client get the results thereafter? So have a think about what's your one step when it comes to business model. If you're feeling completely lost and overwhelmed by this, that's completely on me. So send me a message. Again, we can talk about this. We have my course that I'll tell you about in a moment as well. And of course, the accelerator, et cetera, one-to-one coaching. But the last thing I want in this session is to make you more confused than before. So if you're stuck on this one, just let me know. But one step, is it getting clear on your criteria? Is it doing some calculations to work out kind of the target salary, the hours you want to work and so on? Is it painting a picture of your ideal week? What is that one step for your business model? And coming from a marketing background, this is one of my favorites. So building an effective personal brand platform. Now, I know it's a little bit icky to think of yourself as a brand, but hear me out. ultimately you have a brand whether you want to or not. It's what people say when you're not in the room. Jeff Bezos once said it's, actually, I think what's he called, Chris Anderson, who founded TED, says it's what Google says, not what you say, right? So it's the image that people have of you, it's the trust they feel, the credibility, it's what you stand for, it's what you're known for, and that's super important. So word of mouth, so important in the business, but being proactive as well with crafting, curating the right platform is really important. We're not talking about lying or being fake. It's not going to be me in front of like a private jet or whatever. I don't do that. Well, up to you if you want to do that. It's just being authentic, being yourself, but putting forward the best sides of yourself, the most relevant pieces that serve a purpose, right? So for me, well, for all of us, but this is an example from me, the things that people will first see are, your pictures, your imagery. I did a personal brand shoot last year where I amazingly got 500 lifestyle pictures that were, I hope, more professional than the ones that I had before, but still very down to earth and relatable and so on, right? But that's given me a huge amount of materials to use on websites, and I use that same picture with the yellow top and so on across. I worked with a graphic designer last year as well. These are not things you have to do when you first start, but if you've been in business for a while, I was ready to up level the brand. But importantly, the imagery and your headline. Your headline, in this case, you can see in particular the website, helping you design a business and a life that gives you freedom from the 9 to 5. And I talk also about reimagining success. I talk about escaping the 9 to 5, but in a nutshell, it's all around this theme, right? And you have to be able to roll that off your tongue, whether you're at a dinner party or at a conference, or it's on your website or in your Instagram bio or in a podcast interview bio. You need to be able to say, hey, this is what I do, because that allows people to recommend you. It allows them to go, oh my goodness, I need that, or I know someone who needs that. So here are a couple of examples. So it's not just me, from clients I worked with recently. We've got Valentina helping leaders create inclusive and high-performing teams. And then she double clicks on that to design your team growth roadmap to drive innovation, reduce employee turnover, and build high-trust environments. And that's really key, because it's the so what. It's not just, hey, I help people write copy, or hey, help people develop websites. No, you're saying so that they can reduce turnover, build high-trust environments, and so on. So you have to understand what your clients care about. For me, it's so that they can create freedom, flexibility, and fulfillment, so that they can have more time with their kids, so that they can work and do more impactful work in their business and so on, right? Then we've got Justin here helping driven professionals achieve greater growth, success, and fulfillment as technical sales leaders. So he works in the automotive industry. Great there. He's got a picture of the car, super clear, and he's really on brand in his posts on LinkedIn and so on as well. Then again, we had that ecosystem, remember, that we talked about with the business model. I'm hammering home the 5 pillars now. Now, I didn't have those 5 pillars when I first started, but for me, it's become so much, I hate to use the word, easier to create my content, to plan my content, to teach things, to present these types of workshops, to teach, because I have really clear content pillars. I have a really clear strategy framework. It's a piece of IP that I can talk about. I can introduce it to you. You'll know if you're going to work with me, this is what I'll take you through. We can deep dive. Again, I have one-to-one coaching clients. We focus either usually on definition of success, personal brand, or work-life integration, for example, but we can also work on all 5. And then, as I said, I use those. I have a monthly theme. I have weekly topics. I have a call to action. Obviously, I know which program I'm promoting and so on. But your personal brand is all these things. It's all these different touch points. They say, in the past, I've heard, I think, 7 touch points that a customer needs to interact with you in order to buy. Some people, and I've had clients literally land on my page, go, I've just found you by Google. I want to work with you. Done. But even so, they probably checked the website, signed up for something, booked a call. It's not just, if it's a significant investment, and you guys who are working with me, you can tell me how you found me. You're not going to just kind of click on there and buy. Not like, I don't know, Googling for tuna or something. Probably wouldn't Google for tuna, but it's not like a supermarket. Yeah, bread looks good, boom. It's a much more deliberate choice. And so it can be that people make a really quick choice. 7 touch points. I've read 13, 25. So giving them, they can read the blog, they can watch the videos and so on. You can join a workshop like this. It's free. Hopefully you're coming away from this with a load of actionable insights. Again, you're not feeling you have also PDF resource, and of course you have paid ways of working with me as well, right? So these are just the many touch points. And again, I say this not to put you off if you're just starting out, but these are the kinds of things you can be creating. And you as someone in my ecosystem will only see a tiny part of everything I create. So I have to keep repurposing and promoting and resharing and so on, right? The fact that I've written something on my blog doesn't mean that anyone's going to see it, which is important too. And with that in mind, one of the key things is actually amplifying the visibility. So rather than only focusing on my own Instagram and my own podcasts and so on, more powerful for you is to go out and pitch. If you're a writer, pitching writing articles. I recently started pitching the traditional media. So I've had a couple of physical articles published. I don't yet know if it's going to have an impact in terms of sales and so on, but at least for my ego and for my sort of sense of achievement, it's really nice to have that in my hand. And some of them are paid articles and so on. Another way to do it, if you like talking and if you want to, again, develop and validate your thinking, is to pitch yourself to podcasts. Because instead of taking on the work for yourself to build an audience, no one is listening to my podcast if I first put out my podcast, right? Nobody cares. You actually go on to other people's podcasts and you come in, and obviously it's a complimentary audience. So I've been on a wedding podcast there, wedding business consultancy, a writing one where I talked about my book, we talked about sales, we talked about being digital nomad mum. So none of these are competitors to me, but very much complementary on one or all of my 5 pillars that I talk about, right? So you have to think about how you're going to get yourself visible, going to events. Paying for ads, by the way, is another way to do that, right? Optimizing your website for search, but you need to be collaborating with other people, going on other people's platforms with their permission. And, I can join someone else's virtual summit or present in someone else's Facebook group. That kind of thing is actually more powerful, albeit less comfortable maybe, than sitting at home doing my own things, because you have to amplify that visibility to keep getting more people. If you don't have people coming into your ecosystem every day, you don't have a business. It's a goodie. So I'll put the timer on just for in the interest of time. Anyone want to have a go at writing an elevator pitch in the chat, please do so. And again, if you're watching on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, wherever else, then I can pick this up afterwards. The formula I like to suggest that you use, at least when you're thinking about it, is I help X get Y through Z. Meaning I help this specific type of client get a particular result through, if you want to add that, that's an additional one, by the way, the through method by coaching, mentoring, etc., so that they can reduce employee turnover, etc. Remember from Valentina. I help experienced corporate professionals escape the 9-to-5 through a combination of coaching and business mentoring so that they can have more freedom, flexibility, and fulfillment. I help experienced corporate professionals who are unclear on what they want to do with their lives get a really important, I'm making this up as I go, as you can maybe tell, get a super clear idea of their vision for their life and business through a 3-month coaching package so that they have a really clear definition of success and know exactly what to do as a next step in their career. I help experienced professionals who, you can get really granular in terms of not just I help business owners I help fledgling entrepreneurs put in place the foundations they need to get consistent results through my 5 pillars so that ultimately they can build the business they've been dreaming of. Anyone want to have a go? So do, wherever you are, if you're here on Zoom, if you want to have a go. If you have one already, I'm happy to comment on it. It's the kind of thing that, you end up often with something that's very blah, blah, blah. I see in my Facebook group and many other groups where people say, hey, do you like my thing? And if I, as a coach, would probably usually go for, I help anyone and everyone, right? I help people get clear on their life goals so that they can live their best and most wonderful, fulfilling existence, blah, blah, blah. It doesn't mean anything. So be super clear on who you want to work with. Remember the clients from the business model. What are you actually helping them get? So I help creative businesses get an incredibly strong brand in place, brand identity, a compelling brand story, whatever it is, sales copy for their website through my copywriting so that they can get more clients, right? Ultimately, most businesses want more clients. We generally want something. We want more of something, less of something, more joy, more money, less pain, less suffering, right? So have a go at that. What's your elevator pitch? And again, this will be an evolution. I've tweaked mine many times. You want to evolve it. You want to practice it. It needs to roll off your tongue. You will use a different version on your bio versus in person and so on. But what you don't want it to be is to be really uncomfortable. It's like, oh, this is what I do. You want to really confidently state it so that people can then go, oh, amazing. Let me recommend you. So Next question is, how is your ideal client, I'm assuming you know now who your client is, find out about you? So remember that you have to get in front of people. You just bring up a website saying how to do isn't going to help them find out about you. So are you going to pitch yourself to podcasts? Agency, I did that last year to work through all my archives of posts. Are you going to pitch yourself to traditional or online media? There goes that military aircraft this time, not a helicopter this time. Are you going to do paid Google ads, paid Facebook ads? Are you going to do reels? I know, but right now on Instagram, reels are getting you in front of a lot of new people. So how will your ideal client find out about you? Really important to think about how you're going to get exposure to your personal brand. And I'll move on to the next one. You can answer these two in one go. How are you going to build trust and credibility once you have their attention? I haven't talked so much about this, but remember everything I've said about the ecosystem, the journey, those different touch points. If I imagine, as I said, somebody might come, Google business coach, boom, call done, sounds great. Love those people. I also love the people who have maybe seen one of my reels, clicked onto my Instagram, followed me, watched a few more videos, read my little carousel posts and whatever. Then maybe they then sign up to get my 5 pillars scorecard. They'll get a welcome email sequence. After that, they'll get my weekly email where I have the podcast. Hello, everybody, join my masterclass or a paid one-off workshop. Then they'll hear my little pitch saying, hey, you can get great results in the accelerator or whatever. Book a call, we'll have a call, they'll join the program. A little bit longer journey, and some people will take years to get there with me, so that's okay because I've been around for years now, so you build that. But I've built the trust. Had a call perhaps together by right away, they'll come back later. Things via Instagram, via videos, via free workshops, via paid workshops. And so it's not just them seeing Anna Lindberg says that this is what she can do. I'm actually demonstrating that credibility. And that's the magic of entrepreneurship these days. You can demonstrate your credibility without necessarily having the formal qualifications and so on. So you can build that trust and credibility. So the 2 questions there. How is your ideal client going to find out about you? How are you going to get in front of new people? Are you going to go to events? You're going to, pitch yourself to podcasts, media, etc. And how will you build trust and credibility? And just jot down a few ideas now. Again, if you're already in business, you're obviously doing some of these things, but maybe there are some gaps where you could do more. And so then the question is, what's your one step here? So setting yourself some targets in terms of pitching yourself to even one, or doing a search as a first step to find relevant podcasts or groups or experts that you might want to collaborate with in some form. Maybe you need to work on your elevator pitch and you're not yet sure even what client you should be working with and what result you're helping them with. And then we need to go back to the business model piece. So what's your one step when it comes to building your personal brand? And so we're on to pillar 5. Pillar 5, thank you for sticking with me. I know it's already been over an hour, but almost there. So well done for coming this far. Have you found a way to balance your business with everything else? Are you designing your business around your life rather than the other way around? So we come back to the 5 L's. And we need to remind ourselves of that vision of success, why we started the business in the first place, the push and pull reasons of what we're trying to create, and not just, again, get into the trap of recreating the very pains and structures and hell that we had in our job before if we did. We don't want to recreate. The whole point is that we're redesigning this, reimagining it. And it takes more than just one step to do that, right? I always focused on that one step to quit your job. But as it turns out, and this is what all the 5 pillars are about, it's a much longer journey to get there. Remember Dory Clark's long game as well. So are you setting yourself up for success with these different areas? Are you making time to exercise, to have a proper lunch break, to go to bed early, not work late into the night every day, to nurture your relationships, to learn new things, to work on the business, yes, and also to have fun in the meantime. So that's really, really important here. I share this, it's sort of my week. I call it the ideal week structure, and it's already a little out of date, I've seen, because I no longer do yoga on Monday mornings. I've moved it to the evening because I felt that it was great to start with self-care on a Monday morning, but it did put a bit of pressure on me. I felt like I lost half of my day in terms of work. Nonetheless, in my case, I have nursery pick up and drop off Mondays, Wednesdays, Thursdays. Those are my work days. Sophia stopped napping in the afternoon now. So before I was actually working when they were sleeping sometimes, but that's no longer, instead we're doing puzzles and games and things, which is nice because I know before I know it, they'll be grown up and I won't have this special time with them. So Monday morning, okay, a bit of admin and catching up and planning. You can see I've got the lunch in there. I've got my exercise in the morning. I do client calls generally Monday, Wednesday afternoons. I've put there Wednesday morning and Thursday morning priority project, meaning at the moment it's been my course. It might be my book in the coming weeks and months. Then content creation Thursday afternoon, and then obviously family time. I try to do finance and admin on Fridays. I might need to move that now that they no longer sleep. And then obviously family time at the weekend. Super simple. A couple of suggestions as to, let's say one suggestion as to how to do this is take your 5 L's. I had a client who was far more creative than me, who took colors and designed it. You can take the 5 L's, and then obviously the wellness and well-being is the live. You've got the work, the lead. You've got family time, the relationships, and that really helps you see literally on your calendar, is it balanced? Now, the idea of this is to give you flexible structure. So you can go where your energy is, but if I know that I want to be writing, launching a course, no, well, first of all, obviously the kids have to get, otherwise they call social services, so that is important. But you know, if I know, and obviously client calls I do too, but it's those other things, it's the books, it's the courses, it's the things that nobody's actually asking you to do. They're the ones that you have to actually put on the calendar, otherwise they won't get done. It's an ideal week because it's never going to look exactly like this. But last week I had a pretty ideal week, pretty ideal results. This week I've finished the course. And so sometimes, you know, after tweaking it, after really getting into the discipline of doing it, you do actually end up with something quite similar to this. And I'm flexible. You know, this morning I was quite tired. I did do my run, I did my workout, but I did a shorter run. I did want to then come back and work on finalizing things for today and so on. So the whole point is being flexible again, right? But that's a tool you can use in terms of designing in your calendar. Another really important concept is that of boundaries, which I'm sure you've come across before. I mentioned we want to work with clients who respect those boundaries, but that means you first have to set those boundaries. You have to identify what the boundaries are. We have to communicate those boundaries, and then we have to enforce those boundaries. So think about who you need to talk to. Is it your partner? Is there someone in your life who's really a drain on your energy? In the short term, it might be that you can't say no to certain things, commitments that you've taken on, but then longer term, you can extricate yourself from those. I find that clients really respect that. If it's just clear, oh, I'm sorry, I don't work on Fridays, or I don't take client calls on Tuesdays, or, you know, I'll usually reply within a couple of days if it's WhatsApp, whatever the rule is for you. If you communicate that proactively up front, and then if you communicate it politely, and above all, if you demonstrate flexibility and willingness to make exceptions in exceptional cases, then people really tend to respect that. Whenever you have a client who doesn't consistently, who is constantly pushing you to reduce your prices, who's emailing, calling, expecting way more, that's when you need to learn from that that's not probably the ideal client for the future. And then the final piece is not so sexy, but so important, is on systems and processes and the support structures, and support also in the case of outsourcing and delegating. It seems a little bit strange when you're a solopreneur, when you're a freelancer. We're not talking about, as I said, that team of 30, 50 people. Excuse me. My voice always starts to run out by the end of the 90 minutes, but we almost got through them. So the systems that you have, at the beginning, it might seem like, oh, it's just me, I don't need systems, I just do everything. But believe me, if you can document things, whether it's on and offboarding clients, what else? Content creation, you know, planning the themes, the topics, and so on, whatever that is, you know, if you document that now, it means that you can very easily outsource it later. And when we get to outsourcing, we can then really importantly get started sooner rather than later to even, you know, get someone on Fiverr to do a design for you, or get a freelancer who can give you a little bit of admin support. So important. The first time I got someone to do my blog scheduling, email scheduling, and so on, I suddenly had a totally free week. And I've shared this before, but I suddenly realized why I wasn't building a thriving business, because I was spending all my time doing all the operational stuff in the back end. And so in order for you to do the fulfilling work, make a difference, create amazing content, build credibility, work with your clients, etc., and have free time for everything else, you do need to offload things. That means maybe outsourcing to people, or it may be tools, right? I've had a calendar scheduler, which some of you will have used before. Instead of emailing back and forth, hey, can you do Tuesday? No, I can't. Can you do Wednesday? A client or a prospect can just propose 3 times, and that syncs with my calendar, and I approve that. What else? In terms of now prospect booking calls, I had years ago, I don't know, 100 people book a call off the back of Arianna Huffington sharing my post, my article, and there was no system for it. Everyone just willy-nilly booked a call. Most of them didn't turn up. They weren't ideal fits, and I don't think I got a single sale out of it. Whereas now, if you go onto my website, onestepoutside.com, there's a little find your step. There's a little quiz there. It'll take you, depending on your answer, to a few different places. Depending on where you are in your journey, it'll take you to, start reimagining success. Here's how you can roadmap your transition out of the 9 to 5. Here's how you can take your business from sort of surviving to thriving. But it also then, depending on if you're just trying to get started, read some free materials, it takes you to some free things. Or if you're ready to call and work with me. So again, there's that someone who is starting out and just wants the free stuff, and someone who actually, no, I know I want to work with Anna, so how can I do that, right? So these things didn't exist, but they have developed over time, and they're so important to having that functional work-life integration and allowing me to focus on creating courses and being here with you and so on. Okay, so a few final thoughts, questions. What needs to be on your calendar each and every week? So a few suggestions there for you. It could be the exercise, it could be lunch break, it could be picking up whatever, going to take care of your horse, I don't know. But also within your business, there are certain things, and this is the kind of thing we cover in the Accelerator and in the new course as well. But you need to be amplifying your visibility. You need to be going out in front of new people. You need to be getting new leads. Then you need to be nurturing leads that are already in your system. You need to be, creating content, publishing content, promoting content. You need to be actually doing the work, delivering the client projects. You need to be doing admin, accounting, what else? Strategy and results tracking and that kind of thing, right? Metrics and so on. So there are certain things you need to do each and every week. So have a quick go at thinking about what you need to do there. I'll just give you about 10, 20 seconds there. And speaking of systems, I recommend a project management tool such as Asana or Trello. I have Asana and I have recurring tasks in there. So if there's something I've identified that I need to work on every day, every week, every month, then they pop up there. I don't have to use my precious brain energy to remember those things. Which processes need documenting in your business? This is probably something you can't necessarily answer off the top of your head, but I encourage you over the next weeks, months, make a note of things in your time. So obviously creating content, spontaneously is a really nice thing, but and this is the thing I'm ultimately promoting. I'm promoting the Accelerator. That's for this type of entrepreneur and service-based business owner. These are the things they need to know. We're talking personal branding, topics, and then the content creation, right? So I need to plan that out. I need to record the videos. I need to record the podcast, send them over to the podcast guy. We need to get the transcriptions, etc., etc. Onboarding clients, meaning everything from when they land on your website as a prospect through to booking a call, through to working with you. From they've actually worked with you, welcome into my community. Here's what you need to know. Here's a set of questions for you, a questionnaire before we work together. And here's how to get out to the website. It's working. Thanks so much. Testimonial, offboarding them as well. Project management, again, something like Asana, right? So begin to think in the coming weeks what processes you need to document. And this one I am going to let you do offline, as it were, because it takes much more time. And again, think about it over the next few weeks and months. There are things, and there are fewer than you think, that you have to do or that you actually want to do. I love coaching. I love presenting. I actually enjoy putting together presentations and so on. I want to be doing these things, right? Some things I have to do. I mean, arguably, I don't have to coach and so on because I could hire a legion of coaches and I'd just be their sort of big overseer. But that kind of sits between want to do, have to do. If you're the designer, you have to design. Whatever your role is, if you're the community leader, you need to be doing certain things. If you're the writer, you need to write. Again, you can have people, you can have accountants under your umbrella, you can have designers and writers, but there are some things, maybe business development, you need to do. There are some things, though, that someone else could do. And by the way, think of things in life as well, right? Cleaning, housekeeping, dry cleaning, etc. Could be partner, children, if they're older, or paid help, childcare. And then some things, again, don't need doing. We get a bit like, oh, I'm going to make my Instagram feed perfectly beautiful, or I'm just faffing about doing this and the other that doesn't actually need doing. So delete. But think about the things you really want to do. That's the core of your ikigai, your purpose, things that you have to do because you're the CEO of your business, things someone else can do. And then begin to look, is it a one-off project you can outsource to an SEO agency, web designer, whatever? Is it ongoing? They're going to be editing the podcast. They're going to be posting social content and so on. And then one step for you here, you're going to have a go at designing your ideal week. Are you going to list the things that you want to do, have to do? Are you going to tentatively maybe make your first hire in the sense of outsourcing something that you just can't do? It seems obvious, but if you can earn £100, £200, £500 in the time that somebody else who you pay £20 or £50 can do something, if they can do it faster, better, or cheaper than you, it's a no-brainer, right? But this comes down to having the right priorities, setting boundaries, and having systems and delegating. So that's the work-life integration. Okay, again, thank you so much for sticking with me. A couple of final minutes as we begin to wrap up. We've done a lot here. If you want more, first of all, of course, I do encourage you to go back, especially if you're just catching the last few minutes. Hello there, if you've been watching. Hopefully it's been working well on the different channels, LinkedIn, Facebook and YouTube, Facebook page and Facebook group. If you're not already familiar with my podcast, again, I've got over 3 years of episodes there now. In fact, many months since I took this screenshot, reimaginingsuccesspodcast.com. You can find it on your favorite channel, Apple, Google, Stitcher, Amazon, whatever. So that's a great place to start. It's big picture. Again, I cycle through these 5 pillars. You can see here I was talking healthy boundaries and so on, but also interviews with people who have navigated this transition. The scorecard that I mentioned is a free resource. Maybe you've already sampled it, but you can sign up at onestepoutside.com/scorecard. So it's a PDF, it's interactive. It's got a set of 10 questions for each of the pillars. Then you can up your score. And I get my clients to do this too. And then we can see, okay, I'm super clear on my vision of success, but confidence isn't quite there and work-life integration. Or it's the business model that I'm super clear on. I've got all that in place, but I haven't got the branding yet because I feel a bit nervous about that, right? So that's a really good tool. And you'll also get my little welcome sequence and join my email community. So you can kind of learn from, I guess, how I'm taking you through the journey as well. Now, I want to share this. This is actually the first time I share it, but just to show you that there's a lot more thinking that goes into this and a lot more materials. And this is what I'm now put together in the course. So there are 4 steps for each of these. Of course, there's many more, but I've done my best to really streamline and focus on the core pieces. So for each of these pillars I've talked about, there are actually 4 then modules, 4 pieces. For example, on your definition of success, we look at your big picture vision, we identify your values, we define your purpose, and we look at having that balanced set of goals. For the business model, we look at criteria, clients, products, your ecosystem, personal brand, headline, content, credibility, visibility, and there's a whole set of videos and exercises and so on. So just to share that there's, of course, so much more than we've talked about today. And final possibilities, of course, if you do like the sound of these 5 pillars, if we're not already working together, if you are a service-based business owner who is not quite either living the life you want, I guess, because you're not getting the consistent revenue yet, or you're being really successful in kind of traditional terms, you've got the income, but you're not working with clients you want to be working with, you don't have that work-life integration yet, and so on, you're not achieving what is in fact your vision of success. This is the Accelerator Program. If you to Accelerate, you can read about that. You can join us monthly, or you can invest in a year and you'll join our little community on LinkedIn. It's a really lovely a membership site with now, 3 years of training topics on there. But more importantly, we do a new training every month based on a topic that's important, of course, based on these 5 pillars. We have a live coaching call as well. And again, we're active on LinkedIn. So that's a really great community. If you want to learn to go deeper, go further on these 5 pillars, that's a little bit more advanced. Without further ado, I've been hinting at this. This is hot off the press. So onestepoutside.com/course, you can read about the academy. So this is finally really consolidation of everything I've been teaching in the group programs. It's what we go through in the Accelerator, but all those 4 steps per module, all in simple bite-sized lessons. So video, little interactive workbook with exercises, self-paced. You get access to all 5 modules at the same time. You can work through them at your own pace. I recommend that you go from start to finish, rather than jumping around, because they are there for a reason. Again, trust the process. Having the clear definition of success and working through your mindset is so critical to being able to choose the right business model and so on. If you're watching this, I'll give you a special offer in this context, given that I'm just launching this. If you tell me that you've watched this masterclass, so let's say if you say Masterclass Academy, either DM me, PM me, email me, whatever, Masterclass Academy, then I'd like to give you 3 months free of the Accelerator program. So we'd love to build out in our a good group of people over there in Accelerator. It's a great complement to the Academy. Once you've done the Academy anyway, I really encourage you to graduate into the Accelerator. But I thought it was a really nice thing to do, that if you do join, so again, if you let me know that you've watched this Masterclass Academy, you then get 3 months worth of the Accelerator membership as well. And that's worth, on at the time of recording, over £300 as well. So really good offer. I hope you agree. And I really look forward to having you then in the community with us. And that's it. Of course, if you're stuck based on what we've talked about, if you don't know, should I join the Accelerator? Is it the call? Should I do one-to-one? You can always book a call at onestepoutside.com/call, and you'll see the process, the system that I told you about in terms of answering some questions, booking a call via my calendar software as well, and then we'll get on the phone and have a chat. But I will leave it there. 90 minutes gone. Whew. It's been a bit of a journey from the beginning. So again, thank you so much for your time and trust in showing up. Thank you for being present. And I hope you've come away with some interesting answers to those questions, perhaps more questions than answers as well, actionable insights to take away. And again, have a look at that scorecard. And if you're not sure where the gaps are, maybe you're a little bit stuck on one or 2 of the pillars, really have a look at that. It can give you, already in that scorecard as well, give you some indications as to how you might move forwards. But I wish you every success, whatever success means to you. I'd love to have a conversation, of course, whether the Academy or the Accelerator is right for you, or one-to-one coaching is always an option as well for a small handful of clients as well. And thanks so much. I hope you've enjoyed learning about the 5 pillars today. If it was new to you, I know it's a lot to take on board. Do come and listen to the podcast, follow me on whatever social platform is your favorite. And I look forward to seeing you somewhere in my ecosystem. Thanks so much. Really appreciate your time. Best of luck